Almost there. All right, yeah, got it. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. You know, when you start a new project, to ensure success, you have to have the right tools. Just like in a video game, you have to understand the fundamentals to be able to make it to the end. You know, the first step is always the trickiest and the most difficult, but I'm going to make sure you're prepared so you have absolute success. All right, let's have a go at it again. Yeah, there we go. I love to grow herbs of all kinds because I think, well, they're beautiful and very useful and incredibly fragrant. And you know, this little garden doesn't take up much space. This is one of my little 4-foot square raised beds. You see, it's only 10 inches tall, so I used 2x10 lumber and made this 4x4 bed, and I filled it with soil that drains well. It's placed in full sun because herbs love full sun, and in this bed I have 15 plants. So just let me go through with you the variety that I have here. In the corner I have rosemary, followed by 3 plants of chives, yummy on potatoes. And then look, this is flat leaf Italian parsley, 2 plants of that, and then 2 plants of curly leaf parsley. And then I have 2 sweet basil plants, and then along here I have 1 pot of mint, a chocolate mint, a Greek oregano, and a thyme. Now, if you don't have this much room, or you don't feel like you have the time to grow a garden of this size, let's step over here and let me show you another one. Now take a look at this little herb setup. It doesn't take much space. We're growing herbs on the vertical, if you will. And I'm using 3 pots. I've got an 8-inch pot of rosemary here, and I have it sitting in a 16-inch pot with lemon verbena in it, which is really fragrant. And just below it I have a 20-inch container with lemon thyme cascading over the edge. And of course I have a saucer here to help keep them all hydrated. This is a fun way to grow herbs, and you could come up with your own combination. These were just some that I had on hand and thought they would look good together. You can place this in full sun, and not only will it produce a lot of herbs for you, it's got a really cool look to it. When we talk about fertilizer, we're basically talking about plant food. By definition, it's any substance that's added to the soil to supply 1 or more nutrients, essentially for the growth of plants. The thing is, healthy, well-fed plants tend to have a higher production level. That just makes sense. You'll see anywhere from double to triple crop yields with your vegetables and herbs just by adding fertilizer to the soil. Another benefit is that healthy plants take up nutrients and water more efficiently, which means I spend less time watering. When you look at fertilizer packaging, you'll notice NPK. These are the symbols for 3 key elements that help plants perform their best. Nitrogen, denoted with an N, helps plant foliage to grow strong. Phosphorus, denoted with a P, helps roots and flowers grow and develop. And potassium, denoted with a K, is important for overall plant health. Regulates metabolism and water absorption. Now when it comes to applying fertilizer, I often use a water-soluble formula. It's great for establishing plants and can be used throughout the growing season. If you haven't fertilized in the past, give it a try this year. You'll be amazed the way your plants will perform. Spring is just around the corner, so coming up after the break, we'll show you how to step up your garden game with a universal favorite, and later, a beginner's guide to chicken rearing. Stay with us, Garden Style will be right back. Just like Narcissus looked at his reflection forever, I could look at these beautiful flowers forever. These hardy perennials are a great addition to any garden, and they're so easy to care for. Planting bulbs can be tricky, so we'll help you get started with our primer for beginners.
I'm Brent Heath. I'm a daffodil hybridizer. That means I get to be a bee in the hands of the Lord. I go around and spread pollen from one flower to another and harvest the seeds and get to name a select few hybrids. But I also own a mail-order flower bulb business in Virginia and also in the Netherlands. This hillside of daffodils, it's just, they're here dancing in the breeze, they're happy campers. It's so nice to see plants growing well. Daffodil is the good Lord's almost perfect flower. They're native predominantly to Western Europe. Daffodils are members of the amaryllis plant family. All members of the amaryllis plant family contain alkaloids, which are poisonous to critters. So daffodils are critter-proof. Great. Secondly, daffodils are sun lovers. They do best in full sun. They are only slightly shade tolerant if they're early bloomers and get most of their growth before the leaves come on the trees. But they are such happy flowers. You know, yellow, the predominantly yellow, but also whites and variations of orange and pink. You want to plant daffodils in the autumn, and typically bulbs root best when soil temps are between 50 and 60 degrees, so typically after your first frost. And you want to plant right up until the time that the ground freezes, because the bulbs want to make roots. Once they make roots, they don't freeze. And remember, plant them in the sunlight. Plant about 4 bulbs to the square foot to get a nice coverage to allow them to multiply well. Dig a hole 3 times the height of the bulb deep, and they are best in a sandy, loamy soil, which everybody gardens on. You know, we're part of this nature that we're amongst, and we've become apart from it. And I enjoy helping to reconnect people to the earth that we're part of. And the flowers are so wonderful because the flowers infect people with smiles.
When it comes to birds, did you know that the chicken population is greater than any other bird species in the world? After the break, we'll walk through the fundamentals of starting your own backyard flock. You know, Kathy, I find that when people are thinking about having a few chickens, that they're often dealing with some misconceptions which often aren't true.
A lot of people, I find, will tell me stories on Facebook about a negative experience they had with a rooster on their grandmother's farm.
Right. I hear these as well.
Yeah.
The mean old rooster.
And it's unfortunate because roosters really aren't mean. And,
no, they're not.
When they are aggressive or territorial, it's just because they're doing their job.
That's right. They're being a rooster.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
That's what we pay them for.
Some roosters, you know, are really quite gentle, and I find that certain breeds are more gentle than others. I'm sure you've seen that.
You know, I've had more than a few roosters in my flock, and I've never had an aggressive rooster. There's not a way to predict which rooster is going to be aggressive. There's also not a way to socialize a rooster not to be aggressive.
That's right. If they've kind of got that in them, they're going to stay that way.
Right.
Yeah, it's better to find another home for him.
Agreed.
Well, Kathy, you know, these Sussex are a very gentle breed. This light Sussex is one of my favorites, and this little guy in here, he's a big teddy bear. You know, the other thing that I think is so interesting, people think that chickens are smelly, you know, and they don't want them for that reason.
That's a common misconception, actually. Chickens themselves are not smelly.
No.
It's the animal waste of any animal.
Like here, we use wood shavings, and we put down new shavings every 2 weeks or so, and it smells very fresh. It smells like pine in here.
And that's how it should smell. And a well-kept chicken yard will not smell like chicken waste.
And then this idea of people say that, oh, I don't have time. You know, it's a lot of work to keep chickens. You know, I just don't think that's the case at all. I don't think they realize that you can have waterers and feeders that'll feed them up to a week.
That's true. Poultry nipple watering systems that you can hook up to a hose will run continuously.
Clean, fresh water 24/7.
That's right.
You can still go on the vacation you want to take.
That's right, and very inexpensively. You can also implement a treadle feeder, which is a feeder that the chickens need to step onto in order to activate it and to reach the feed.
That's right. Yeah.
That eliminates rodent problems, that eliminates concerns about going away on vacation.
Yeah. And you don't have to have a lot of space either. This is an 8x8 pen. It opens up into a larger run, but in here we have 6 chickens, which is a perfect number for this space.
Oh, and they're perfectly happy in here. There's plenty of room in here for them. There's a nice breeze, plenty of light. Everyone's happy, laying eggs, I see.
They are, plenty of eggs. We have to gather them today.
Right.
I think we should launch a campaign that every person should have chickens in their backyard.
I'm all for it.
That's right.
I'm working on it.
When it comes to sun and shade requirements for veggies, it can be kind of confusing for the inexperienced gardener. Next up, we'll break it down in an easy way so you can get started on the right foot. Understanding the light in your garden is critical if you want to grow a lot of beautiful vegetables. For instance, if you look on the tag of a plant or back of a seed pack, it'll say full sun, partial sun, part shade, full shade. Let's just talk about what that means for just a moment. Full sun means 6 continuous hours of sunlight. Now you can have afternoon sun, you know, that range of time from 3 when it's really hot all the way till sunset in the summer. Or you can have morning sun, which, you know, is from sunrise up until about 1 o'clock or maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That morning sun is easier on vegetables, particularly in really hot parts of the country. Now, there are certain vegetables in high summer that can really take a lot of hot sun. Plants like okra, sweet potatoes, green beans, even peppers. But I found my tomatoes tend to like a little break from the hot sun. So that morning sun is really good for those. And then cool weather crops. If you're trying to bring those into the hot summer, things like cabbage and kale and lettuce and arugula, a little protection from that hot afternoon sun is really good for them. For instance, this squash, this is zucchini squash, one of my favorites, loves full sun. It'll thrive in that hot afternoon sun, but it'll also do equally well in morning sun, the sun that we get in the east. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Over here on this side of the building, I've got some vegetables growing in containers. It's a great way to grow vegetables, but again, light is very important. I have chard, I have sorrel, and there's more chard over there. Look how beautifully it's growing. These plants only get morning sun from dawn up until about noon. So they get 6 hours of that early morning sun, and they're doing very well even in the hottest part of summer. Okay, now let's reverse things. We've talked about sun, let's talk about shade. When you talk about partial shade, that is an area that gets less than 6 hours up to about 3 hours of sun a day. If you're talking about full shade, that's an area that only gets about 3 hours of sun. Now, if you're trying to grow vegetables in partial shade, you've got more latitude. But if you're trying to grow vegetables in shade, where you only get 3 hours of light, you're going to be restricted to growing things like Italian parsley, leafy lettuces, and things like that. And of course, if you have containers, you can move them around. That's the great thing about them. If you're planting under a tree, well, you want to make sure that you're planting way out from the root zone if you can. And also grow on trellises, things that can reach up and find the sun, something to consider. Things like green beans and cucumbers even. You see them in salads, pickles, and even drinks. But do you know what it really takes to grow cucumbers? Coming up, we'll take you back to basics with Cucumber 101. I love a good cucumber. They add a cool freshness anywhere they're used, and they're just so easy to grow. So let's break out the gardening tools because we're going back to the basics with this simple yet delicious member of the gourd family. You know, about once a week I come out here and encourage my cucumbers to go up on the fence. Just take a look at this. You see how these vines will begin to cling to this fence. This is what I call a space-saving technique. cucumbers come equipped with their own little tendrils, and they'll begin to tie themselves up to the fence. They do it all by themselves. All you have to do is encourage them. And so by weaving a few of these ends into the fence, these tendrils will reach around and wrap around it and hold them there. And then you have cucumbers hanging down all along this fence. It's a great way to harvest. Now this variety of cucumber is a lemon cucumber. It's an Asian variety. And if you look under here, you'll see, here's one right here, one of our first. There you go, look at that. These are really delicious. I just love them, and they are really, really easy to grow. Now, one of the things that you'll notice here, look at all the blooms. It's very important that we have pollinators. So bumblebees, honeybees, they're all welcome to play around in the cucumbers and go from one flower to the next, because the more they pollinate, the more cucumbers we grow. Let's go over to the next fence. Let me show you a Boston pickling cucumber. So you can see here, these are growing very well also. You can see we're already getting some fruit here on this. Look at that. Look at that little cucumber. And here's some here as well. These will grow about 6 to 7 inches long. These are delicious, as the name implies, for pickles. Who doesn't love pickles? And what we've done is we've spaced them about 4 feet apart. There are a couple of plants in each one of these areas, and within a couple of weeks, these cucumber vines will cover this entire fence. It'll look like a wall of cucumbers. Now, one of the things to keep in mind with cucumbers is you want to make sure that you go along and keep them picked, because they can get away from you, and what you'll do is you'll get these giant cucumbers in here, like that one is already getting too large and it's already beginning to yellow. They'll just seem to grow overnight. So you need to check them regularly, because this is a perfect size for pickling. That's what you want. And you want to keep these big ones off, because what they're going to do is they're just going to drain the plant of its energy. If you keep them picked, you're going to get more and more cucumbers. You're not going to exhaust the vines. Be the first to know about our latest projects and never miss what's happening at Moss Mountain Farm by signing up for my newsletter at palensmith.com. While you're at it, hop over to our Facebook page and share your stories. We'll be right back. I don't know about you, but when I finish a project, that feeling of accomplishment is really marvelous. Now, when I finish a garden project, that feeling comes back over and over, because the garden is one of those gifts that just keeps on giving. You know, the beauty of those plants and the bounty they produce will perpetuate all those good feelings throughout the entire year. You know, when you jump into a project, think about this. Get the basics down and then cut loose and have some fun. Get a little crazy. You never know what may come out of it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. So you find this to be true as well. Wait a minute, I got stuff on. Just the thing that I also hear, very, very calm.
Don't you have these fellas under contract that they need to be quiet when you're filming?